Hello and welcome to our first content video for this school year. These videos will go along with our book for this course, for the dual credit courses. For the CP courses, we'll still use these videos, but we'll use different resources. And I'll add some stuff along to that. I'm here holding a baby, so I don't look like my teacher self at the moment, but that's okay. So we're going to start off with building factories and building cities, this unit. It's from the time period of 1877 to 1920, so if you had me last year, it really transitions really well from where we left off. And this image in the background is something that is sort of like a case study of all the big concepts of this unit. It happened in a city, which is Bayonne, New Jersey. It's about the Standard Oil fire, so we learned about like the oil industry and how it was booming at this time. And you can also find a short video from Edison's motion pictures, a 1-minute video of people fleeing their homes with whatever they could fit on their carriage through the street. So if I don't show it to you, you probably want to try to see that on your own. And we're going to start off with 16.1. So this section is on technology and the triumph of industrialization. Triumph sounds like it was all great. Last year we talked a lot about the downsides of industrialization. We're going to focus mostly on some of the positives now. We'll still might get into some of the negatives. This you may recognize. This is from Boonton, New Jersey, this image. And Boonton was a hub of industry of New Jersey because of the ironworks that were located here, but also because of the fact that the Morris Canal came right through it. So let's start off with our essential question. So the question we're going to try to answer today is, how did technology impact Americans in their day-to-day lives? So not like just the super rich people or people in the military or the government, but the average American, regardless of their demographic, how did it impact their day-to-day life? So when we go through, to answer this question, there's two things you need to keep in mind when we go through this year. One is we're going to keep track of vocab. So if you don't have a vocab sheet yet, you can go ahead and start one. This could be separate to your page of notes. And one word we want to make sure we want to know today is the word patent. And a patent is a legal right to an invention given to a person or entity without interference from others who want to replicate it. So in other words, if you invent something and you get this patent, no one else can try to make it and sell it under the certain terms. Maybe eventually they can. There's probably like a timestamp, but that's it. So go ahead and pause this. Make sure you write down your vocab word. And then we're going to get to our second point, which is taking our Cornell notes. All right, so let's go over the rules for the Cornell notes if you don't know them already. So if you had me last year, we did this a lot. Even if you didn't, you probably did this a lot. So our topic objective for today is the tech and triumph of industrialization. Go ahead and pause this and fill this out. The essential question, you're going to write that in. How did technology impact Americans in their day-to-day lives? For every slide, you're going to see I have a question up top. That's what you're going to write on the left. And on the right, you're going to write the bullet points that we see there. Now, here's an important thing to notice. Some things I say, but you won't see on the notes. Does that mean you need to write it down? Not necessarily, but it may really help you with the essential question. So if you're one of the persons who doesn't listen, I know my voice can be irritating, I apologize, but you just fast forward and watch the slides, you might want to double, check that. You might want to say, yeah, maybe I'll listen to it. Because the summary, and you want to put a summary on both sides of your notes, right, is using the notes that are on those slides or anything I said from that page, right? So if your notes take 2 sides, you're going to have 2 summaries from each section. If it's only 1 page, you only have 1 summary. All right, let's get started. So for the first, you'll notice in green, that's the question you'll put on your left. Explain the birth of the electrical industry. And then what's in blue, that's going to be your bullet points to your right. Okay? So you've probably heard of Thomas Edison, right here from Menlo Park, New Jersey. I just visited his labs in New Jersey just a couple days ago with my 2 boys. And I wasn't sure if that was going to be interesting or not, but it was actually like a really super cool place. So we will talk more about that in a different date. Now my notes just froze. but that's okay. I think I remember what I need to know. So we know that Thomas Edison created an invention factory. So if you go to Thomas Edison's labs, you'll see so much more than just the light bulb that we all know him for. You'll see where a room where they worked on music instruments, a room for chemistry labs, all different machinery, photography, all sorts of things. And what he also did was he found ways to bring electricity into the homes of people. So we started off with actually making small towns getting electric and then spreading it to others. There's some other inventors. George Westinghouse, you may have heard of the Westinghouse Company to this day. He helped electricity travel long distances. So when you put those two inventions together, it makes a difference. Granville T. Woods, you'll see here on the right. He had 35 different patents, remember the vocab word, for different electronics and communications. Now, Woods was the first African American to be both a mechanical and an electrical engineer after the Civil War. He went to college for a few years to study those topics. He worked a lot with inventions regarding trains and streetcars, which was the main form of transportation at the time. Before he went to school, he actually started learning about this as a fireman on the railroads. That was his earliest job. So he made lots of inventions, the steam boiler furnace, inventions that sort of combined the telegraph and the telephone that he sold to, I believe, the Alexander Graham Bell's company. The next question you'll put on your left is, how did Henry Ford change the automobile industry? He's saying hi. So he used organizational strategies for production of the automobile. You heard of the assembly line, right? Do one part at a time. So it was a lot of just the methods of production that he revolutionized. He mass-produced identical cars to make them affordable so that most families could afford them. You see the Model T Ford there. By 1914, they were producing almost 250,000 cars a year. He also developed other industries. So as the car was mass-produced, this also benefited the oil industry, the rubber industry for the tires, right? The steel industry, the glass for windows, and all sorts of things. He also revolutionized how workers were getting paid and to give them incentives to work. Workers were first paid about $2 a day. That obviously increased, but also the 5-day-a-week plan. So you learned last year, some of them were working 7 days a week, long days. This sort of changed that. Ford was from Michigan, and at just the age of 16, he left to go work in Detroit, Motor City, right? Motown. So just think he was about your age when he started all of this. And what sort of fueled his passion for these inventions, by the age of 12, his father gifted him a pocket watch, and he spent many hours taking apart and putting back together that pocket watch. Now, there's also some things that are more critical of Ford. When we get to the World Wars, we'll talk more about that. So what other factors contributed to industrialization? In world history, you probably learned about the Bessemer process, which helped make steel, helped make it more quickly and more affordable. So that, revolutionized the steel industries. So one of them is Andrew Carnegie, of Scotland. He took advantage of this and he mass-produced steel, made a fortune out of it. The Carnegie Steel Company controlled 60%, right, a huge percentage of all of the steel business in the United States by the year 1900. Other families, you'll see the three gentlemen here. That's from the DuPont family. French immigrants before them, but they're brothers and cousins. They produced dyes, they produced fertilizers and other chemical products. The DuPont also made advancements in management and record keeping. So think of the way Ford was to the assembly line. They did that with office management. Side note, my high school AP bio teacher, she was a direct descendant of the DuPont family, and there's still a lot of old money in that family. I learned by looking at her wedding photos. But they also did things like gunpowder manufacturing and other, like I said, chemicals, things with the automotives. They also got benefited from a lot of inventions towards the wars, inventions that were used in wars. So things like nylon, Kevlar, which is used in helmets to protect people. So they benefited for right or wrong from wars as well. So how did technology develop in the South? So at the end of last year, we learned about Reconstruction and how the North and the South took some different turns and things. Well, before this, textiles were focused mostly up in the North, especially Connecticut, Rhode Island, parts of New York, parts of Massachusetts. Now a lot of that does move down south. Other company that was big was the tobacco industry, right? It was big in the South for a long time. And, oh no, my daughter's calling. So I'm going to have to decline this for a second. Oh, did it stop recording? Anyway, now I'm all distracted. I apologize. So now they set up almost like these towns where tobacco was grown and produced. And I first thought this, you think, oh, that would maybe be from some of the former slaves that would now be working there. And not so much. It was actually mostly poor whites that were trying to like escape the new world of the South, if there's a better term for it. And they worked in these tobacco towns. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted now. So here's an ad from one of those cigarettes from the time, right? Advertising grows now. This photo is actually one my brother took a few days ago, who lives in North Carolina. One of those tobacco towns is now sort of been changed for like theater and shopping and, you know, things for use of today. So we're going to conclude with how did technology impact everyday life? Really the core of the essential question today. Now, the other slide should have helped that a little bit, but think of a lot of inventions that we're going to discuss. Communication. So telephones. Now, the telephones back then were not like telephones today, but they were still something in a new form of communication. Typewriters. We'll learn more about sewing machines during one of our On This Day. Typewriters also made it more possible for women to work in different ways. A lot of them became secretaries with the typewriter. Eating habits now also change with refrigeration. Georgie's saying hi. Mass production of cereals, right? We have Kellogg's and Post cornflakes up here. Even hygiene, flush toilets, plumbing. The first government building to have lots of flushing toilets is Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. All right, we're going to stop it there, and we'll break down some more of this stuff later. Don't forget, make sure you have summaries on both sides of your notes. All right.